Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max and welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest video. Yes ladies and gents, we are back with another tactics and transfers video, today talking about a potential loan move for Manchester United's goalkeeper Dean Henderson. A move that is yet to be confirmed as to whether it will be a straight up loan move, a loan with an option to buy, or one even with an obligation to buy come the end of this season. In this video we'll be discussing his career up to date, a mixed bag during his Manchester United stint which is yet to yield a first team place despite impressive performances from the 25-year-old single-time England international. So before we get into that, don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel whilst you're down there, especially if you're new around these parts. The subscription gain in the last couple of days has been insane, and if by the time you are seeing this we have surpassed 750 subscribers, thank you very much for making us reach that. And with that being said, let's get into talking about Dean Henderson. So let's start talking a bit about the background of Dean Henderson and why a muted move to the City ground could be good for all parties involved. Dean Henderson started his youth career with his local side Carlisle United, from whom he would move to Manchester United in 2011 at the age of 14. Here he would quickly progress to the under-18 side, becoming their first choice keeper, with his performances earning him a Young Player of the Year nomination in 2015, which would subsequently and quickly be followed with a professional contract. This would then lead to 5 years of progressively more substantial loans in which he was able to gain first team minutes and greater experiences in different leagues. This included loan stints at Stockport County, Grimsby Town, Shrewsbury Town and of course Sheffield United, where he would really make a name for himself during a 2-year stint, getting promoted to the Premier League in the first and making it to 8th in the Premier League during the second over his 86 appearances for the Blades. However, since his return to his parent club, it has been a frustrating time for Dean Henderson, making 26 promising appearances during the 2020-21 campaign where he capitalised on some poor form from David De Gea. However, last season the Spaniard would recover that fine shot stopping form that got him the #1 jersey in the first place, which would see Henderson limited to just 3 appearances over the course of last season, none of which came in the Premier League. But don't let this lack of minutes put you off the signing of this fantastic shot stopper, who is potentially a huge upgrade on the players already available to us between the sticks. Speaking of which, I briefly just want to touch on the Brice Samba situation. A muted move to Lens is apparently on the cards for the keeper, despite him being one of the best players for us last season. Now of course I don't want to speculate on the reasons behind this, his motivations. Could it be wages? Could it be just a desire to change his scenery? I don't know, and personally I'm not that interested. It's not for me to know, and it's not really for us fans to know either. What I will say though is Samba will depart as probably the best keeper I've seen in my lifetime at Nottingham Forest, and certainly one of my favourite keepers and players in general during this period. And as far as I'm concerned, he is a modern day Forest legend. He basically got us to the Premier League with that performance against Sheffield United in the second leg, and as far as I'm concerned he is welcome back at the club whenever he wants to. Going back on track though, we're going to be talking a bit more about the stats for Dean Henderson, and as a sample size we'll be using his 2019-2020 campaign with Sheffield United, in which they finished 8th in the Premier League, so this will be definitely where I'm drawing the best references from in terms of his quality as a goalkeeper. Of course, for a goalkeeper, the best way to actually measure their abilities is through their actual raw shot stopping, and Dean Henderson had a miraculous 75% save percentage during that 8th place finish campaign with Sheffield United, the 3rd highest in the Premier League that year, behind Bernd Leno for Arsenal and Hugo Lloris for Spurs. And during this campaign, Sheffield United would concede just 39 goals in 38 games, just over 1 goal per game, and the 4th best defensive record in the league that year, behind Liverpool City and Manchester United. However, it was not all quite that rosy for the Blades. If we look at what expected goals predicted, they should have conceded a little bit closer to 52 goals over the course of that season, a swing of 13 goals, and definitely a huge reason as to why they finished so highly that year. In fact, expected goals predicts that Henderson single-handedly prevented 5 goals for the Blades that campaign. Now that may not sound that impressive, but when you compare him to the other keepers in the league that season, of keepers to have made a substantial amount of appearances that year, he had the 6th best metric for this ranking. This is called post-shot expected goals and is a really good way of ranking individual seasons for goalkeepers. And this fantastic form would continue into his albeit limited appearances for Manchester United in subsequent seasons. Henderson would make 13 league appearances for United during the 2020 and 21 season, where United would finish second in the Premier League, and his save percentage would actually marginally improve from 75% to 76%. However, his post-shot expected goals, the metric we were just discussing earlier, would fall from 5 goals prevented to around 0, meaning the shots that he was saving with that very good save percentage were pretty much more or less what you would expect a keeper of his quality in the Premier League to be doing, despite his very impressive performances. And despite this, Dean Henderson has garnered a reputation as a fantastic shot stopper, most certainly of Premier League quality, especially during that time with Sheffield United over those 2 campaigns. And he is certainly stronger than his Spanish compatriot David de Gea in other aspects of his game, such as command of the box and more modern goalkeeper metrics. For example, if we look at his cross collection rate, which is around 7.5%, which is marginally above average for Premier League goalkeepers, it far outweighs that of David de Gea, who sits at just under 5%. Now, this may not sound like a huge swing or really that important. When you think about a team coming up to the Premier League, we're going to need to be a little bit more direct. We're going to need to counter-attack, particularly against better sides. And having a keeper comfortable coming off his line, claiming crosses, that will be a huge asset in quickly starting attacks for either long throws or through long kicks. Also, just from seeing Henderson play for United compared to David de Gea's body positioning in terms of receiving the ball is much better. His starting position is much higher than David de Gea. In general, he's just more comfortable at receiving the ball in the box from his defenders, and it's a really big asset when you're trying to build out from the back. And if we're playing against weaker teams who maybe want to surrender possession, it's hugely important to have a keeper who's comfortable on the ball. However, despite all this, I do have some slight reservations about the move for Dean Henderson and loaning him in from Manchester United. The first of which is this pretty much rules out the ability of getting James Garner back next season on loan, which granted was never a guarantee in the first place, but it definitely would have aided in having some squad continuity from the Championship to the Premier League. Secondly, and probably least importantly, Henderson is a keeper who's low on confidence and low on game time at the moment, something that can easily be improved by just giving him a good run between the sticks in the Premier League, but it could make his integration slightly less than seamless. Finally, and probably the most tangible of these issues, is his ability playing the ball out from the back, specifically from his long kicking. From someone at Sheffield United who is being asked to launch the ball, which is a kick over 40 yards, extremely frequently, he wasn't really that good at it. In the Premier League, he had the highest proportion of passes for a goalkeeper being launched, again, over a distance of 40 yards or greater, but the second worst completion rate of goalkeepers, again, with a substantial amount of minutes. When you compare this to Samba, his long kicking ability was a lot more successful last season. Now, granted, he was being called to kick the ball long a lot less often than Dean Henderson was, so there's a lot less margin for error, but even still, when you look at it, his proportion of success is greatly higher than that of Dean Henderson. Those are just some of the concerns that I've sort of arisen during Those are just some of the concerns that I've had over the signing of Dean Henderson. Certainly not the worst things in the world, and they're completely manageable and coachable as well. And I do back Steve Cooper and his team to improve not just these specific attributes of his game, but also just his all-round game, and I can see him really growing in confidence under Cooper. Overall, I really like the signing of Dean Henderson. He is a young goalkeeper on a small loan fee, which is extremely low risk because he is Premier League quality and Premier League proven, and has a track record of being extremely reliable and not that often in making mistakes as a goalkeeper. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent move. Of course, as always, let me know in that comment section down below what you think of the move for Dean Henderson. Like I said, personally, I think it's a good move. I think it's a progressive move, and it frees up some funds for us to spend in other areas of the pitch, particularly at wing back, where we are desperately lacking in talent. With that being said though, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe whilst you're down there, and with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, Reds. I will catch you later.